While we were at Ben Fawkes in Vermont, we got the opportunity to visit Vermont Compost in Montpelier, and we met a very interesting person, Carl Hammer, the owner and founder of Vermont Compost. Now, compost is one of the subjects that I'm passionate about, and Carl is as well. And it was extremely interesting. His reputation preceded him because there were some very unusual systems, and I've never seen some of those little intricate changes and adaptations that Carl's put in. I really enjoyed the visit. It was academically challenging, and we really enjoyed our conversation about in-depth interaction of microorganisms, compost processes, and his use of chickens in the initial stages of the compost process and producing eggs without the grain input. Okay, so Carl, we're at this amazing site. I'm fascinated with your operation here, especially as it involves chickens. We can see that you've got very high quality composting operation going through to very sophisticated, I think 18 types of potting mix and compost product. But you're involving chickens and getting a sort of default product of eggs plus the benefits of their interaction. Maybe you could just give us a rundown on how it all goes.
So our goal was to produce eggs without buying grain. And the question in 1997 or 8 when we started this was, how little grain could you get away with? And we started collecting food from restaurants in town, 5-gallon pails. I actually started with a team of mules and a wagon, and we bought a couple hundred chickens and pretty quickly realized that we didn't have to buy any grain for them. We were mixing food with a combination of mule and donkey manure from our own equines, cattle manure from a neighboring farm, and the food from the community, hardwood bark and spoiled crops, hay, and so on. And that matrix, assembled in windrows, provided complete nutrition for the birds right through the winter. It was necessary that the pile generate enough heat to melt ice and snow. And the birds kind of form these little terraces on these hot piles and sit up in there. And we just started to realize that they were even eating fungal mycelium. You'd see them like electricians pulling mycelium down out of, and roost. Well, we had to learn a lot of things, but here we are, 2013, and we've been selling dozens of eggs a year from the beginning of our process. And one of our goals was to make the best utilization of chicken excreta, because birds don't urinate and defecate separately. They produce a packet, is the term of art, that is very, very high in protein, much higher than, because mammals also excrete more nitrogen typically in urine than in feces. Birds do it in one packet. So as soon as it leaves the protective, acidulating environment of the bird's digestive system, out it comes, and the pH starts to rise and volatilize as ammonia, which is what gives chicken manure its pungent odor typically. So our goal was to have the birds incorporate their excreta into an acidulating matrix, do a little bit of an anaerobic pickle, which would firm up and retain the proteins, and then go into a thermophilic process and produce eggs day one. So it seemed like a good idea to us, and as I say, we've been doing it ever since. It's totally plausible. Now, the question came up a couple minutes ago, why isn't everybody doing this? And the answer is hard to know. Eggs are very good foundational stone in a food security wall. They get laid every day if you plan appropriately, even when there's snow on the ground. They don't need refrigeration. You don't need teeth to eat them. Babies can eat them. Old people can eat them. And they store, as I say, without refrigeration. So it would seem to be and you can eat the bird at the end of all of this, and they will reproduce. We started thinking hard about when people started feeding grain and why was it amazing to us that you didn't need grain. And I realized that people who harvested grain with hand sickles didn't grow grain for chickens. That's only since industrial agriculture that we've been feeding them grain. It's actually healthier for them by far, and the eating quality of the eggs and the meat is better when they're not fed grain. Now, they do get a certain amount of grain because there's bread, there's cereal, there's pasta, but they're also eating lots and lots of other biota as the system evolves. And as we get towards maturity, they lose interest in it. So it keeps them at the proper separation from these finished products, again, with reference to certification and salmonella. You don't see any chickens down here once we go off the wall, as we call it. We've really got it organized on a, so we do it.
And we could bring this down to, we've just been talking about bringing this down to an urban scale and a micro scale, where we're going to get the best eggs, the best multifunction out of chickens, and a really good fertilizer for suburban situations.
I deeply believe that schools could be doing it in full. We were just talking before about our model is free to leave. Chickens are free to leave. There's no fence. Of course, where's she going to go? Free to leave could be a euphemism for homeless. So welcome to stay where she'd like to be. That's a very high chicken aspiration. Welcome to stay where you'd like to be. That's not just a chicken aspiration. Well, you've seen the view around here generally. These chickens have a pretty good deal. There are a lot of people, and this is a very sad thing to say, who do not get to express their personhood as much as these birds express their chickenhood. Because, as I say, they are free to leave. Now, there's foxes out there, and they know that. And that's where the dog, fox, man, human, chicken, because chicken keeping is a protection thing. They need to be protected. They need access to forage. They will go out and earn their living. They don't get fed in some house. They come out in the morning and they go to work. And they go back and they lay their eggs and they socialize and they dust bathe and they form groups, a lot of complex social groups. We learned a lot about using roosters to protect as the primary predator protection, because when you don't buy grain, you can afford roosters.
And on the other end of the scale, you're really looking at the science of the compost as much as you can, or any of us can understand it, because you're looking with microscopes, you're getting university testing that's going on.
Well, and I have a greenhouse full of trials. We haven't been there. We grow peaches and air grapes and trials. We do bioassays on everything all the time, because we serve about 500 commercial organic greenhouse growers or 500 commercial organic farms that buy our products and depend on them to get started. And that start is really, really important, because that's a culture, a colony. When you launch that plant into an imperfect field soil, if it has all of its elocution, all of its tuition in that bolus, it already is taking sunshine, making sugar syrups for partners who are awake and ready to reach out.
You're inoculating the soil with your mix.
Well, we're putting a functional colony out. That's what the media is. This is infinitely scalable. It really is. But it's about giving them the opportunity, because the chickens have taught us an enormous amount about what they want and need.
Well, they're the ultimate scratchers.
They're ultimate. They're incredible animals. Their sociology is intensely fascinating.
Have you thought about
and
getting up to bigger birds, like the biggest scratchers?
Yes,
the biggest breed?
We have always, the biggest breed is the light Brahma, and our best bird has been the black Australorp. We're looking for 6 to 8 pound bird, because first of all, the surface to volume ratio, once you cut loose from grain, the right bird is a very different thing, because all birds that are bred for laying now are bred to be the smallest bird possible, because it takes grain to support that bird.
What I'm using Australorps.
I love Australorps.
And New Hampshires.
Well, thank you, Australia, for Australorps.
And this is New Hampshire.
This is Vermont.
Well,
which is like, oh, you're in New Zealand. Oh no, yeah, okay. Oh right, oh yeah, they're near each other.
So we have the two
Don't
together.
don't get New Hampshire and Vermont confused in either place, because New Hampshire came from Europe. Remember, it's all granite that's
Where's
slammed
New
into
Hampshire?
Vermont.
This is not New
the other
Hampshire?
side of the Connecticut River,
Oh,
east
right.
of here.
It's not
this
far.
is Vermont.
It's America.
It's not very far as you understand it.
No.
And to me, Australia, New Zealand, you know, not very far.
So I really enjoyed. I learnt something very new. In fact, I couldn't stop thinking about that process for quite a few weeks, and I've designed something very special. It's an adaptation of Carl's hot hammer's system across landscape in a moving form. And I'm going to give you that as a very special key piece. It's like a hinge pin piece to fertility within a system, be it a main crop, be it a pasture, be it a food forest. It's a very special, interactive, productive soil fertility complement. And I don't think it's been done before, and we're going to give you that as a special. I'm so excited about that one. That's going to be great to put down. I'm actually doing it, so it will be a real research example. We'll have all the facts and figures there for you in the video. Look out for that one.